Mets here, for all your Mets here, let's go. Bring it home, bring it home, bring it home Make it happen. There's no stopping us now. We're gonna do it again. It's not a question of how. It's just a matter. It's just a matter. It's just a matter of when.
Hello again, everybody. Joe Piscopo, Shea Stadium. The big story. Mets 86. Exciting, thrilling, awesome. Let's take a look.
We got the teamwork to make the dream work. We got the teamwork to make the dream work. We got the teamwork to make the dream work. Ooh, we got the teamwork to make the dream work. We're gonna make it this time. We're gonna take it home.
What's up, Met fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets Hit Rob. Mets Talk Live here, 6 p.m. on a Sunday, a few hours after the Mets game, the third game of the season, of the spring training season, excuse me. We got a lot to talk about, and there's one thing that has been very, very common, a lot that's been talked about amongst Met fans since games have started in spring training for the 2023 season. It's clear that the Mets' top prospects are showing up big time. And you know what? The Mets are going to have a hard time choosing one of those prospects to fill that spot on the roster, that one spot on the roster that's most likely available, possibly two, depending on the Darren Ruff situation as well. But, I mean, Mauricio, Vientos has been looking good. Beatty has been looking awesome. I mean, it has been, those three guys are like fighting it out for one spot. Competition is always good. But Mauricio with a 450-foot shot today. Beatty showed up in his first game with a home run. I mean, it's going to be absolutely insane how good these guys could possibly be. The talent is there, right? It's early in spring training. They are facing very, very lower level pitchers. So we can't go that crazy on that. But when it gets to a little later in March, like mid-March, and we're getting like 15, 16 games into the spring training, I want to see them consistently be what they're doing right now against better major league pitching, right? Right now, you're getting a lot of the single A guys, the double A guys, occasional guys, that are just like career minor leaguers, not guys that are actually, going to make the major leagues and going to make impact on major league teams. That's something I do want to see, right? We see Mauricio do it in the Dominican Winter League. We saw Beatty do it in the Arizona Fall League, and they've shown what they can do. I want to consistently see it because one of these guys I think are going to get a roster spot. You know what? Right now I'm torn, right? I really like Ronnie Mauricio, but let's be honest, there's really not a spot for him here, position wise. And you do get a little concerned if you bring one of those guys up and they don't get playing time. That can only hurt them. That can't help them. And that's where the Mets have to be careful in this situation, because if you bring up Beatty for opening day on the 26-man roster, you got to find places to play him. You can't play him twice a week and expect him to be impactful. The same thing goes for Mauricio or anybody else you want to bring in, including Vientos. So, if you guys haven't noticed, Vientos has been playing a couple of positions that he hasn't played. He's been playing first base a little bit as well. Mauricio, he can play second, short, and third. Beatty can play third base and left field. So that is something that you have to look at when it comes down to what do the Mets really need. Do they need another guy that can step into the outfield if needed as a platoon? They got Tommy Pham. Darren Ruff could play first base, could play right field. If that's the case, again, we'll see what Ruff does. We still haven't seen Nimmo. We still haven't seen much of Nimmo, Marte, and Ruff either. So it's going to be very interesting to look at when it comes down to getting closer and closer to opening day. Who is going to be on that roster? That is insane. And the problem that I keep having with Mauricio, the talent's there. We all seen it. The problem that I have is that the Mets kind of pushed Mauricio into a corner when it comes to the moves they made over the last couple of years. Again, they were trying to make their team better, so I'm not going to kill them on that. But you know what? You signed Escobar for 2 years. You signed Lindor to a 10-year deal. You signed Jeff McNeil. So your infield, for the most part, and that's even with Beatty and Vientos on top of the depth chart as prospects at your third base spot, Mauricio, who the Mets experimented in the outfield very, very little, and that didn't work out, you're kind of limited to what you're going to have to do with Mauricio. Yes, you can probably DH him. He's a switch hitter, so that's something that you can look at as too. That's why Mauricio could be the guy, because, we are getting, if Beatty comes up, that's another left-handed added to this lineup as well. So that's something that you have to look at as well, why Mauricio might be in the best interest of the team. Mauricio might be that guy because he's a switch hitter. Buck has multiple ways to use him. If you want to give a break to somebody someday, you don't have to worry about the lefty-righty matchup. You could just throw him in there because he's a switch hitter. That's something you have to look at as well. And once again, he can play second, short, and third, when Beatty can play left field and third base. Again, both can be versatile. So it's just a matter of what do the Mets need, right? If Ruff is not going to show anything this spring, are you just going to go with a right-handed bat? Well, that's probably Vientos. It might not be the most popular guy to put on the roster. So, and Beatty and Mauricio might go to AAA along with Alvarez, and Vientos might be the popular choice. Again, I think the Mets and Bucks seem like they like what Vientos has done. They told him to do stuff during the offseason, which clearly he was not doing last year, and they put him in the doghouse because there was a lot of times last year when Vientos came up, he wasn't in starting lineups, and Darren Ruff was, when Vientos would have been a perfect opportunity to be in those lineups. But we didn't know that Vientos was in the doghouse because what the Mets were telling him to do to work on, he was not doing. And I don't care if you're so desperate for a batter in that lineup, you can't give a player, put him in a lineup just because you need him and whatever you're telling him he's not doing. Like that's not how it goes. All right. Just because the team needs somebody doesn't mean that, they tell him to do something and he doesn't do it. You can't reward him with playing time. It just doesn't work like that. As much as it might have helped the team, it might have not have. But still, you just can't do that. Explosive, I don't care about Soto. Soto is not until after the 2024 season. That has nothing to do with 2023 or 2024. Like, honestly, I do not want to hear about Soto. The same reason why I don't want to hear about Ohtani until we know where the Angels are come trade deadline. It's pointless to talk about because in 2025, this New York Mets team is going to look a lot different, right? By 2025, no more Verlander, no more Scherzer, no more Carrasco. Is David Peterson and McGill going to step up? Is Sanger going to be the star that everybody thinks he's going to be? There's other elements here. Is Ziegler, is Tidwell, the pitching prospects that are on the top 10 actually going to make this pitching staff? Are they going to make those next steps? 2025 is going to be very, very different. We hope that a couple of our young prospects actually are all-stars or at least very good players when they come up to the big leagues. And it's just unfortunate that the problem with the Mets are in a very awkward spot because, they sign these veteran players to win in the time frame that Cohen talked about. The Cannons of the world, the Escobars of the world, trading and extending Francisco Lindor, extending McNeil. So, all indications are Beatty is going to be the third baseman of the future, especially now that Machado is back with the Padres. The Mets are going to give every opportunity for Beatty to make this team. And I think he does have opportunity to make the team this year out of spring training. But I think that's probably, I would say, like 75-25. I think there's a good chance, but I don't think it's like 100% chance. Because I still think the Mets want a right-handed bat. And obviously, Beatty is lefty. Mauricio is a switch hitter. But again, I don't know. I mean, he plays all the positions that Luis Guillorme plays. I know Mauricio has a way better bat. But, I mean, again, Luis Guillorme is not playing every day. He's not playing 5 days a week. You got to understand, these guys are used to playing every single day. Beatty, Vientos, Mauricio, these guys play every single day. Once you're playing every day, you get in a rhythm. Once you sit down 2 or 3 days and you're only playing 4 days a week, the momentum, it's just different. The timing's off. Everything is just what you've done playing baseball throughout the minors. You play every day. And you can't just sit these guys down and then when you want to give Escobar a rest, like, oh, Beatty, get ahead. It doesn't work like that. It's just not what it is. Yeah, Christian, I heard Scherzer talk about that, actually. So I want to talk about Scherzer really quickly since we already talked about the prospects. We'll get a little bit more into it. Scherzer, did pretty well. The second inning was very interesting. He struck out a batter in like 27 seconds. The pitch clock, the new rules. I don't know, guys. You know what? I know, for the fans that just want to leave a game, they're walking into the ballpark and they're talking about what's, about them leaving the game when they just scan the ticket and walk into the ballpark prior to the game. Like, I mean, I'm sorry. It feels rushed. It feels rushed. Like I'm watching the game, everybody, the catcher's throwing the ball, the pitcher's got to be ready. The batter's, trying to wiggle his arms and trying to get ready. It just seems rushed. I think it's an unnecessary rule. I'm sorry. The beauty of baseball is because it's not timed. I'm not saying that you can't put, if this rule is stupid. The pitch clock is freaking stupid. It really is. Now, I can kind of deal with the ghost runner and extra innings to, finish games as quickly instead of going 15 innings. I get that. But let's be honest, guys. The pitch clock, everybody just seems rushed. It seems like people are not timing it, and this goes for the hitters as well. It just doesn't work. It's stupid. It seems like are we watching the Savannah Bananas, or are we watching Major League Baseball? Right? I'm sorry. It feels like why don't you just make the game 7 innings then and no pitch clock? Like, I'd rather have that. Like, I just don't get it. I really don't get it. The ghost runner, I get. You don't want, I get extra innings could be tough for a lot of people, including myself. I walk into a baseball game. The beauty of the baseball game is not knowing when it's going to end. That's just me. That is just me. But I know the problem with baseball, they're trying to get casual fans to enjoy baseball. Casual fans aren't ever going to enjoy baseball, even if you make the game an hour and a half. They're just not doing it. They're trying to get these new generation kids, the millennials, the Gen Zs, whatever the hell it is now, that have an attention span of a 2-year-old to like the game of baseball. I'm sorry. If you don't grow up baseball, it's very hard to like the game of baseball. If you don't play the game of baseball, it's very, very hard to enjoy the game of baseball. There's so much more than watching the baseball game and seeing balls hit and pitched. There's so much more. There's conversations. How many times during the baseball game when you're sitting with your friends or your family or whoever, and what do you do during the game? You start talking about scenarios, right? With the pitch clock, you can't even have a freaking conversation, because I'm watching the Padres and Diamondbacks right now, and I'm trying to speak to you, and there's already 3 pitches thrown already. It's crazy to me. It's stupid. It really is stupid. Like 20 seconds, there's a runner on base. All right, so the pitcher got the ball. He's going like this. He's looking at first base. He clearly ain't going to throw over because he only got 10 seconds left. Oh, look, a pitch already again. How about that? Oh, 8 seconds left on the pitch clock. Oh, great. All right, wonderful. Oh, look, 20 seconds again. How about that? You see what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I'm rushed. Like, if you go to the bathroom at a baseball game, you might miss a whole full inning. That's how crazy it might get. Like, it's just, I don't get it. It's absolutely crazy to me. It's annoying, and I just don't get it. It's not making the game better. The shift, I get. It was very, very excessive. I still believe major league hitters should be able to adjust to the shift. I'm sorry. How can you be a Major League Baseball player? Major League Baseball players, the reason why they're great is because they adjust to be better, to play better, to have better numbers. The reason why they stopped the shift was because Major League Baseball players are idiots. They're stupid. They're lazy. They don't want to learn new tricks. They just want to swing, home run, strikeout. The new age of baseball is strikeouts don't matter, stolen bases don't matter. But yet these new rules are trying to prevent all of that now. Like, oh, don't worry, left-handed hitters. Don't worry, you don't have to hit it the other way anymore. Now you can pull the ball through the first and second base hole and you get a base hit. Yeah, that is baseball. The shift, okay, great. But they didn't do it because hitters were figuring out the shift and actually hitting the ball the other way. They changed the rule because the hitters can't adjust. That's unfortunate. And I'm sorry. Major League Baseball players, they're the best players in the world. They should be able to adjust a little bit. I'm not saying you have to, if you're a 250 hitter, you're automatically going to be a 310 hitter by slapping the ball the other way. There's circumstances where you have to pull the ball. I get it. But because of the launch angle, because of analytics, that killed the game. All right? A 3-hour and 45-minute game is not killing the game. Because people who like baseball didn't like it 3 days ago. I'm sorry. The casual fan who goes to one game a year is not going to make money, the money that Major League Baseball is expecting. I'm sorry. If it's a night out, they're not caring. They're probably leaving in the 7th inning anyway, no matter if the game's 2.5 hours or 3.5 hours. Just my opinion. I see it all the time. Guys, if you go to baseball games with these new rules, most of these games should end under 3 hours, right? So pay attention to the people around you, the non-fake baseball fans, right? When they leave, they are not going to stay the full game. They're going to still leave in the 7th inning, and that's it. But we're catering to them. Makes no sense. I don't know. Just Brian C. Rob just needs a small word. Oh, okay, Brian, have fun. I don't deal with babies. I'm sorry. I saw the bases. Yeah, I was in the right field berm yesterday, as you guys know, in Port St. Lucie yesterday. And I mean, the bases look huge. Like, let's be honest. Like when the sun went down and I can actually see the field yesterday, it looks very big. It is, but it's not even the bases. Like the bases, whatever the shift, I get the ghost runner on second and extra innings. I don't like it, but I get it. The pitch clock is stupid. It really is. So yes, guys, the extension. Yeah, I know, I know. But you guys know the 11 years is not added on to the 5 years, right, guys? You do know that, right? It's just 6 more years added with about $170 million more to the contract. So yeah, it's 11 years, but that's added into the 5 years that were left on his contract. So it's 11 years, $350, a little over $31 million a year, closer to 32. And I don't know. I haven't really checked it, but I don't know if there's deferred money, front-loaded money, back-loaded money. But, if you just do the quick math, it's a little under $32 million a year. Explosive. It's not even that. It's not even the 18-inning games. I get why they're using a ghost runner. They want the games to end quicker. But now that you have the ghost runner and now that you have, the pitch clock, it's like you're speeding up the game for what? Like, who is it benefiting? Like, I just don't get it. I don't get it. I'm sorry. Like, there's some people that might take an hour and a half to get to a baseball game. So you go into you say if you have to drive an hour and a half for a baseball game, because some people do, right? If they drive an hour and a half to a baseball game, and they sit there, and the game's over in 2 hours and 25 minutes, they're driving back and forth a total of 3 hours, and the game wasn't even 3 hours. Like I mean, you don't drive an hour and a half to see a game end in 2.5 hours. I'm sorry, you just don't. Yeah, certain times you're like, all right, can this game end? But that's rare, right? You got to go to work. It's late. I get it, right? I get it, but I don't know. It's just odd. Let's see. Well, David, I don't think it's with Ohtani. I don't think it's up to just Billy Epler. Again, Ohtani has the last say. The Mets can throw $500 million over 10 years, and that doesn't mean he's going to take it. We still don't know if Ohtani wants to come to the East Coast. Nobody has an idea, right? If he doesn't want to come to the East Coast, the Mets can give him $1 billion. He's probably not going to come. Sometimes it just doesn't matter. But we'll know very quickly if he wants to come to the East Coast. But we have to wait and see with that. Yeah, well, right wing, they're changing the rules because of the casual fan. I mean, they had people talking from the MLB offices on MLB Network, talking about all the rules and everything like that. I don't know if you guys seen that, but they were saying, oh, it's going to make the game better. It's going to, the fans are going to be excited. There's going to be more action. So, wait a second. So, analytics said, don't steal bases. They don't steal bases. Analytics say, launch angle, don't hit the ball the other way. Two things that in 100 years of baseball always happened. But because analytics says, no, it's not, the percentages are against you on the offensive side, they change the rules. Like, I just don't get it. Like, it's not, fans are not happy about this. There's about 90% of fans that can't stand the rules. So you're clearly not making the actual baseball fans happy. So that's what I don't get. The diehards are always going to go to games. You can make the games 3 innings, and diehards are going to watch the game. We saw 60 games during the pandemic. We bitched and moaned about it, but we watched every single game. I don't know. Yeah, but Thomas, that's rare. Like the Steve Traxels of the world. Like, I mean, but you know what? There was a method to his madness, right? The same thing with Nomar Garciaparra going like this with his gloves. There was a method to his madness. You know, that's something that, you know, was a part of the game. I know, you know, 50, 60 years ago, you know, you want to speed up the game, Major League Baseball? How about less commercials? How about that? Oh, but they won't do that, right? Because it takes money out of their pockets, right? That's how you speed up the game. There's about a half hour of commercials throughout the game. If you cut half of them, that's 15 minutes that you're trying to cut the game because of a pitch clock. Like it literally feels rushed. In not even one sentence, there's 3 pitches in a game. I'm sorry. You know, there's times when you go on the concession lines, your lines to the bathroom, especially when there's a packed house. You are going to miss a full inning, maybe more. How does that benefit anybody? I just don't get it. And what also is annoying is that when the inning is over and you see the pitch clock when you're at the game, I'm sorry, the clock for when the next inning starts from commercial, it's longer. It could be longer than an actual inning, half inning. Like, that's crazy to me. So the commercials are longer than a half inning. Isn't that the problem? Explosive, I don't want Baez. I don't care what anybody says. He's a toxic player. When he came, he turned Lindor against his team, and it was a disaster. I don't want him. Let him stay in Detroit. He can opt out and get more money somewhere else. I don't want him. We don't have room for him. I'm sorry. We just signed McNeil. Beatty's here. You know, you got Lindor here. Where are you going to play him? First base? Pete Alonso's here. You know, it makes no sense. Let's see. Yeah, David, I don't think that's true. Like, I'm not a big fan of Epler, but let's be honest, guys. Like, Epler has nothing to do with Ohtani. Even though he got Ohtani to the Angels and he might have a relationship with him, that's not gonna just persuade Ohtani. You know, Ohtani's not going to bed at night saying, you know, oh, I like Billy Epler is my friend. I have a good relationship. Let me go to the Mets. It doesn't work like that. You know, like, you know, if he likes LA, he's probably going to stay in LA. Is that the Angels or the Dodgers? You know, you heard earlier today that the Padres are going to make a run at him. He might want to stay in California. We don't know. You know, nobody knows. You know, if it's only about money, I think you know who's going to win that battle. So if it is only about money, then it's clear cut. Cohen's going to go hard after him. That has nothing to do with Epler. The same way Epler had nothing to do with Correa when it happened. Epler woke up to the news just like everybody else. I was at work when it happened. You know, like overnight. Like, that's just, I don't know. Yeah, David, I see the pickoff rule is annoying because of the fact that there's certain pitchers that have really good pickoff moves that, you know, would throw over 5 times during an at bat. And Taijuan Walker was a good has one of the best pickoff moves in baseball, and now he's going to be limited in one of the best things he does. We'll see how that affects him. You know, it's unfortunate. It sucks. You know, it really does. You know, Scherzer even talked about it during the game. You know, he didn't say nothing bad about that because, you know, I don't think he's going to, because let's be honest, guys, the Major League Baseball and the Players Union had to agree to these rules. You know, and you know the committee that they set up, the competitive committee and all that stuff, you know, they had to get approvals from MLB and the Players Union. So I don't know. You know, the players want to play a game less, but get paid the same. That's their idea. Let's go get these 9 innings over and let's go home, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to, right? If you're playing, you know, I don't know. It's just I don't get it, because all it's hurting is the fans. Let me just check. Thomas, I'm not sure what you mean about that. Do commercials like your stream have the game in the middle and the commercials on the outside? Dude, I don't know. Honestly, see, but I don't control that. That's YouTube, right? SNY or any sports channel that has a game on controls the commercials during their spots. They have a certain amount of commercials they want during the game because they get more money for those ads. So, YouTube sets the prices. I don't know. That has nothing to do with me. I don't know. But I just don't know. I know it goes into ads during when you rewatch a video or a live stream. I don't know. JL, I agree with you. Like I said, I'm not going to be the one to say, oh, the Mets got a better lineup. That's not true. Sorry. The Braves can have a very potent lineup, and the Padres clearly have a potent lineup, right? I talked about this many times. The difference with the Mets lineup, is obvious. The lack of power, which I do believe that you're going to get more power than we've seen last year from certain guys in certain positions that we got nothing from last year. Catcher, DH, third base, even though Escobar had 20 home runs, that's a down year. They were expecting Escobar to have 25 home runs, maybe a little bit more. That was the reason why he was batting behind Alonso for a while, because he was the protection for Pete Alonso. So, I do expect 35 to 40 more home runs throughout this lineup than they had last year. When you get 3 from catcher, when you were expecting at least 10 to 15 between 2 catchers, and the DH between Davis and Smith, you were expecting at least 10 home runs from each of them. That's 35 home runs right there that are just from 2 positions. So, with Vogelback a whole year, he averages around 15, 16, 17 home runs. That's 17 home runs the DH spot never had. We had, a grand total of like 9 home runs last year from the DH spot. You can't have that. I don't care how good this lineup is, and that came to a head later down during the stretch. And that's something that, hurt this team later in September. No matter if you're playing a good team or a bad team in September, didn't matter. The offense wasn't hitting. Then the pitching was trying to do too much, and they sucked. They did not give the team a chance. Well, Mike, how do you feel if you're Mauricio right now? Right? Look, what are you going to do? Listen, in my opinion, prospects are called prospects for a reason. I don't care if you hit 400 in AA and AAA, you hit 30 home runs in AA and AAA. I don't care, right? I've seen players who dominated the minor league system, came into the major leagues and can't break 200. We've seen it over and over and over again. And that all around baseball, not just the Mets, not just the Yankees, not just other teams, all of baseball. It happens. It is what it is. I'm sorry. I'm never going to bitch and moan about a team that is trying to better themselves. I'm sorry. Would you want a proven guy in Manny Machado, or would you want to let Machado go and pray that the top prospect that's a third baseman, be half as good as Manny Machado? I hate when teams do that. I'd rather use the prospect when you have an open position. Not, let's not get this guy because you have this guy in the system. Because there's no guarantee that guy in the system is going to be the guy better than the guy who is already proven. Give me a proven guy every single time. Because 9 out of 10 times, that proven guy is going to play to the back of his baseball card. Beatty's or any other prospect baseball card all says single A, double A, triple A, single A, double A, triple A. Give me a guy, you turn the back of the baseball card around, MLB, 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 MLB. Give me that every single time. Not saying that you don't bring up prospects, right? If somebody's struggling, if that veteran or that known guy is struggling and not doing well, he's up there in age, it's just not working out, then you bring the prospect up. If you got an open position, right? The Mets didn't hesitate to get Lindor when they had Mauricio, who was the number 1 prospect at the time. They didn't care. They got Lindor. Cohen wanted to make a splash. They got Lindor. But Mauricio was your number 1 prospect. It is what it is. I'm sorry. If you win a World Series, do you really care about the prospects in 2023? Because I sure as hell don't. Well, put it this way. The reason why Darren Ruff is still on this team is because, look, GMs are proud individuals. They don't want to admit they're wrong. I think they're going to give Darren Ruff spring training. If he shows some type of offensive, power, or at least looks at least decent, they're going to give him an opportunity at least in April. Ruff is not going to make or break this team in April. All right. If he doesn't hit, that's why you have Tommy Pham to be that right-handed bat. You already have Vogel back. So, Ruff will be sitting on the bench. That's basically what he would be doing. So, but again, you know what? I mean, we see this all the time, right? They get traded to a team, right? But we act like Brandon Drury and Josh Bell, the guy Trey Mancini, guys that we wanted at the deadline, and we didn't even think about Darren Ruff because nobody even thought about it. It's not like those three guys went to their new teams and were great. They were all terrible. They weren't good at all. So no matter who you got at the trade deadline that we were talking about, the Josh Bells, the Drurys, guys like that, they didn't do nothing. So they were almost just as bad as Ruff. Yeah, they might have a little bit more moments than Ruff, but they weren't good. Hey, Webb, how you doing? Well, Webb's, yeah, he looks like a totally different hitter. I mean, if you look at the front face, the pictures of the players, what they take when they join the Mets, like the half shot from the chest up. If you look at him 3 years ago to now, he gained a ton of muscle and a ton of weight. Like, he was under 200 pounds not even 2 years ago. He's over he's like 230 now. And he's tall. Like, he's a beast. But again, the Mets made moves that blocked Mauricio at every position he could have played him in. That's why I was thinking for 2 years now, the Mets might, if a trade comes up or a possibility of a trade, say for Ohtani comes up at the trade deadline, guess who's going to be the first one in the package? Ronnie Mauricio. Just letting you guys know. Might piss off a lot of people, but he is more expendable than Alvarez or Beatty. They just are. I'm sorry. It's, Beatty and Alvarez are more important to this team at the moment because they're going to fill roles, if not this year, 100% next year. What hole Mauricio's filling? Lindor? No. McNeil? No. Third base? No. Beatty's there. Left field? Mauricio was tried out in the outfield. Didn't work out. Yes, you could put Beatty in left field and put Mauricio at third. I think the Mets should do that. But I don't know. I don't know what to do with Mauricio. Because if you bring him up, he's not playing every day. Just so you guys know. That goes for Beatty as well. That's why don't get upset if Beatty, Mauricio, and Alvarez and Vientos, all of those guys start in AAA. And Buck's going to go with the veterans, at least for the month of April. I would not be shocked if that happens. I wouldn't do that. I would bring one of those young guys up and give us a little spark, but I don't know. JL, I'd rather the ghost runner than the pitch clock because the pitch clock rushes the batter, rushes the pitcher. I'm sorry. I just don't like it. The pickoff rule is stupid. It really is. I don't know. I too many damn new rules. Thomas, Thank you. This was my complaint in the offseason with people having a problem with Cohen. And all you've been hearing, oh, Cohen's spending all this money. The last 2 years, there is no team that spent more money than the San Diego Padres, but nobody cares about that. The problem is people don't like Steve Cohen. That's why. Because, in the boys club, so to speak, he has more money than everybody else, right? I don't know if it's a guy mentality. You got to one up somebody. Cohen can buy out every owner if he wanted to. You know what I'm saying? But that's the reason why they don't like Cohen personally. That's it. That's the reason. There's no other reason why they don't like Cohen personally. You know why? Because Cohen does what he wants to do. That's it. And I don't blame him. But nobody's talking about the Padres spending all this money. They're bitching and moaning about Cohen because they don't like him. That's all. Well, explosive. I don't think anybody's surprised about Ronnie Mauricio. The problem with Ronnie Mauricio is the Mets' moves over the last couple of years completely blocked Mauricio in the entire infield. Like that. That's it. It's not very complicated. It's just what has happened. These are all facts. Every move the Mets made in the infield impacted Ronnie Mauricio's possibility of coming up to the big leagues. There's no reason why Ronnie Mauricio shouldn't be in the big leagues this year. Some say he should have been there last year. He should be starting for the Mets somewhere. But where are you going to put him? That's the problem. I'm telling you, these guys are used to playing every day. The Mets are not going to sit him on the bench for 4 days a week and give him 3 times, 3 starts a week. It's just he's not going to be as good. Anybody. When you're used to playing every day, the consistency matters. The rhythm matters. Playing every day matters. When you're used to playing every day and now you only play 3 days a week, it's going to mess up your timing. You're not going to be as effective. Some people thrive in that roles. That's why they're utility bench players. Mauricio is not a bench player. Beatty's not a bench player. Alvarez, Viento's not a bench player. These guys play every day. They're used to that. That's why when they got called up last year and they played twice a week, maybe 3 times in a row, they weren't as effective because their whole professional career, they've played every day. And that's the problem. And the thing with Ronnie Mauricio is the fact that the Mets made moves over the last couple of years. Every move blocked Ronnie Mauricio from coming up to the big leagues. I'm sorry. Ronnie Mauricio played in the Dominican Winter League last year or this year and performing the way he did and how he's looking early in the spring, a lot of teams would bring him up. But a lot of teams would also have spots for him to put on the major league roster. That's the problem. Mike, you keep on talking about left field. Do you want a Lucas Duda situation? Do you want a Todd Hundley situation? Not everybody can just get thrown into a position and play it. Ronnie Mauricio, 3 times the Mets tried him in the outfield. It did not work. He would have been playing the outfield if that was the case. Just because he's very good on the infield does not mean he can play outfield. I'm telling you, as an infielder myself, I know he's a professional player. It's very hard to read balls when you entire career through his life, he's been an infielder. It's totally different angles on the ball, the way it comes off the bat. Pop-ups in the infield are a lot different when you're looking up in the air when fly balls in the outfield, when taking angles on balls. That's a huge difference. The Mets tried it. Once they got Lindor, they tried it. Mauricio does not like to play the outfield. He cannot do it. Could he be an average, maybe outfielder? Yeah, because of his speed, he might get to balls. But not doing that all your life when you play baseball, and always the best players are never in the outfield. They're always in the infield for the most part. Harper was a catcher. Like, come on. Like, it's things like that is, you can't just say, oh, let's play him in left field. I thought about that too. But they did it a couple of times and it doesn't work. When a guy's not comfortable in the outfield and he's been an infielder his whole life, it's very hard to adjust. Now, can he play any infield position besides first? Yeah, of course. A couple of different angles on balls. You got to turn double plays. Instead of, going to your left at shortstop, you got to go to your right as a second baseman. Cutoff, as a third baseman, you got to have cutoff. Instead of as a third baseman, you're not really going to the outfield, right? The shortstop and the second baseman have to do a double cutoff at times and get to the outfield when balls are in the gap. That's something you have to do. And with Mauricio, he just does. He's not an outfielder. That's it. Blame the Mets. And this is not just Billy Epler. This goes to Brodie Van Wagenen. This goes to Sandy Alderson and now Billy Epler. All three of them. They made moves that hindered Ronnie Mauricio. Now, if you guys keep on talking about prospects and bring them up, then you should have Sandy Alderson here. Because Sandy Alderson wouldn't make a free agent signing and he would bring up the prospect. And when they don't perform, everybody blames Sandy Alderson. But now everybody's talking about, oh, you should bring these guys up. Well, where are you going to put them? There's only so many roster spots. There's only so much playing time. I'm sorry. Buck is not going to play a prospect over a veteran right now. Escobar is still a very good player. You're not going to sit down Escobar and pray and hope that Beatty or Alvarez or Mauricio or Vientos perform. You're trying to win a World Series. Now, could it be a piece to the puzzle? Absolutely. But you can't just throw those guys out there. Oh, make Escobar, sit him on the bench. It doesn't work like that. I'm sorry. People bring up the Braves. The Braves had holes. That's why they brought those guys, the prospects, up. They were willing to see if they failed. If they failed, well, all right. But you know what's the difference? The fans, the media. If the Braves would have failed at bringing up those prospects and they didn't perform, there's no outrage. Let's talk about Georgia football or the Falcons, right? Here, when hockey and basketball and football is going on, you still get baseball talk on sports radio. There's a reason for that. So it's crazy. It is what it is. Yeah, and Matt Chapman's a 210 hitter. I don't want him. Sorry. He's a 210 hitter. He's done nothing with Toronto, and he's a good player, but once again, we're getting a guy who strikes out and hits home runs and can't hit for average at all. Crazy. I agree with you. We do. But we just assume because we see these guys in the minor, in spring training hitting single A and double A pitchers that they're just going to come up and provide the offense that we needed. We don't know that. We just don't know that. I'm sorry. Yeah, Ruff does have arthritis in his wrist. Well, that goes back to, this is the problem with like physicals when players get traded. I know the physicals are not as thorough at the trade deadline as it is if you trade or sign people in the offseason, but they still do limited physicals. They look at all the medical records. Like, why do they approve these trades if these guys are hurt? The same thing with Frankie Montas with the Yankees. Like, he clearly had a bum shoulder, but the Yankees were so desperate to make a move to make their fans happy, they just pushed the medicals aside and said, all right, he's healthy. It's stupid to me. Ruff, clearly, if the arthritis thing is real, then that trade should have never happened because then he should have failed the physical. I'm sorry. Arthritis shows up on X-rays, MRIs. You see it. I mean, these guys with medical degrees should see that in 2 seconds. I just don't understand that. That's why it comes down to the fact that medicals are bullshit. I'm sorry, guys. If a team really wants a player, and this goes back to the Correa situation, right? I think if Correa and Boris would have gave the Giants enough time to, work out better terms to his deal, he would have been a Giant. But because Cohen, rode on his white horse and probably thought that the Giants were just, getting cold feet with all the money, and Correa wasn't going to make a difference on the Giants just by himself. After they lost Judge, I think that's why people thought the Giants were getting cold feet, right? If the Giants and the Mets didn't like the physicals, well, technically he failed the physicals. Why did the Twins sign him within 2 or 3 days after all the holidays and everything like that? The Twins basically, as soon as they agreed to terms, it seemed like the next day he passed the physical. How does he pass the physical? You know why? Because teams, when they want to, throw the physicals in the garbage and they don't care. That's why. Correa is going to make the Twins more money with jersey sales, some ticket sales. That's why the Twins can throw that medical out the window. So that's why medicals are very much a waste of time. Explosive, yeah, Ronnie can be. But guess what? Beatty's more likely, and Beatty and Alvarez is more likely to be up next year besides Mauricio. Now, again, I'm just saying, if you can move Beatty to left field after this year and Mauricio plays third base, now you get those players in. But again, you're really relying in year 4 of the 5-year window to win the World Series. According to Cohen, you're going into year 4 with, as long as Scherzer don't opt out, which I don't think he will, with 1 more year of Verlander and Scherzer, with multiple prospects being big components of this team next year. Now, some might like that, but if they fail, the Mets are screwed until the trade deadline. That's the problem the Mets are going to run into. No, Mauricio was. They tried him out in the backfields of the outfield, left field, and center field. They tried center field because Nimmo was on his last year of his deal and 1 year left on his deal. Once they got Lindor, they tried center field on the backfields of the minor league complexes. They tried. It didn't work. Mauricio said he was not comfortable in center field. They tried left field because usually when you're a bad outfielder or you don't have really a position, they throw you in left field, right? Todd Hundley, Lucas Duda. That's what they do. When you run out of positions, they put you in left field, and then after that, you might be a DH if you're lucky. If you got a good enough bat, they're going to try you everywhere. I'm sorry. They could have told the Dominican Winter League, hey, I want Mauricio to play left field and center field. Why didn't they do that? Why haven't they, over the last couple of years, when it was obvious that Ronnie Mauricio was blocked at third base, at shortstop, at second, he wasn't playing every day in the outfield. You know why? Because they know he can't do it, and he says he does not like it. That's why. If you're not comfortable and all your life you've been an infielder and you're a really good infielder and they throw you to the outfield, it's a whole different ball game, guys. I'm sorry, it is. The bigger bases, how do they look? They look bigger. In person, they look bigger, guys. It's like a magnifying glass on a base. Like, that's what it looks like. Well, Alan, you can't think of it like that. Like, then nobody should make trades. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just because that prospect might be really, really good, right? Jared Kelenic, have you heard of him? How has he been? Right? Come on, guys. Like, we bitched and moaned, and all of us did. Oh, we gave away our top prospect. Cano didn't work out, but Diaz has been the best closer in baseball. Who knows where the Mets would have been last year without Diaz, right? So, everybody thought the Kelenic trade for Cano and Diaz was a bad move. It turned out better for the Mets at this point, and no matter what Kelenic becomes, even if he becomes an all-star player, who would have been the Mets closer the last couple of years? So, at the moment, the Mets won that trade. So, if the Mets, if it comes up at the trade deadline that Ohtani's available and to start the package, the Angels want Ronnie Mauricio, you're not going to do it? I mean, come on. It depends on who you're getting. I'm not saying trading Ronnie Mauricio for a mid-level reliever. Alex Ramirez also looks good. You know who, Joel? I know when I was at the games, Beatty looks tall as hell. Mauricio looks tall as hell. They look huge. I didn't realize how big Beatty was once he was standing like right in front of me when I was at the inter-squad game. Like, I mean, that dude is big. Mauricio, the same thing. I remember going to spring training a couple of years ago, seeing Mauricio. I have a picture. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to try to find it. It's somewhere in my archives of spring training games that I went to over the years. Ronnie Mauricio, I took a picture of him at bat, and he looked so skinny. He looked like Alex Ramirez. He looks nothing like Alex Ramirez now. It's crazy, their transformation in a couple of years. I agree. Jeff McNeil was a steal. I mean, technically it wasn't a steal. We drafted him and we signed him. That's great. Yankees win it with what we have. What do you have? Judge hitting less home runs this year? You can love your rotation if you want, but But I'm not talking about Hall of Fame at every position. It's just that Matt Chapman's not a great player. No, but he don't have to hit 300. But can he hit 260? Because he can't do that. I'm sorry. I don't like guys that just hit home runs and bat under 240. That does nothing for us. Sorry, it doesn't. Really doesn't. He crushes home runs. But okay, you can take any player, Webbs, any player, and find good statistics to prove your point. That's the problem. You watch a player every day, he strikes out 200 times. He bats under 240. Great, he hits 30 home runs. So in 500 at-bats, 30 of those he hits home runs. Everything else, he doesn't put the ball in play, and he strikes out a ton. How is that helping the Mets? When only 30 at-bats out of 500, he strikes out nearly half, and 30 home runs he hits. Great. Wonderful. That's great. I'm sorry, but have the Toronto Blue Jays won a World Series? Where were the Oakland A's? Right? I'm sorry. Chapman is not making a team a championship caliber team. He's not. Because he's been on two teams now. Hasn't really been the focus of any of those teams. I'm sorry. He didn't make the A's better, and he's an afterthought for the Toronto Blue Jays. There's about 5 guys I could pick better on the Toronto Blue Jays in that lineup than Matt Chapman. Sorry. Correa is damaged goods. I agree with you. I never said sign him just because, throw the medicals away and sign him. But at least Correa is a 260, 270 hitter. He puts the bat on the ball. He can hit you 25 home runs. Like, give me a player that can bat 270 and hit 25 home runs over a guy that hits 210 and 30 home runs. Because those other 350 at-bats, he does nothing. Brooklyn Mets, I agree with you. That's why, look, if the Mets would have put him 2 years ago, once they signed Lindor, in the outfield, Mauricio should have been in the outfield right away. Right away. For whatever reason, they did not make that experiment very long. They put him in the backfields to let him try a little bit in the outfield. You know how I know that? For people who don't believe me, when I go to spring training, I go in the backfields, right? You can walk around and go to the other backfields where a lot of the minor leaguers are, while the major league guys are like in the bigger fields and stuff like that. Ronnie Mauricio was in the outfield. He was playing center field it was like a scrimmage in the backfields. Just because you didn't hear about it, guys, does not mean they didn't try it. On the backfields, in spring training, they tried it. For whatever reason, that experiment has gone out the window because he should be playing outfield now. There's a reason over the last 2.5 years why Ronnie Mauricio has not played the outfield. One, he might not be good at it. Two, he probably told him, I don't want to do it. That's it. That's it. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say they're the best pure hitters, to be honest with you, because Mauricio is pretty damn good. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, you know, in the inter-squad game, he made a really nice play. I mean, as big as he is, he has closeout speed. To get to that shallow fly ball over the third baseman's head, and Escobar had no chance. Mauricio looked like he didn't have a chance. And that closeout speed to get to that ball was amazing. He's going to be I think he's going to be a very good player, really good player. But, you know, there comes a point in time, how long are you going to keep this guy in the minor leagues when he's probably ready? Yeah, Joel, exactly. He does not want to play the outfield. That's it. You can't let him DH. You're wasting the talent. He's too good defensively to put him as a DH. And then, okay, he's a switch hitter. So where does Vogelback, Tommy Pham, and Ruff go? You're going to get rid of all three of those guys? They're not going to do that. Webbs, I didn't bash the trade because I wasn't happy with it at first. But, you know, when you start to look at, even when Diaz was terrible in 2019, you know, Kelenic had to be at least an all-star to make me be concerned. But again, Kelenic is not hurting the Mets no matter if he came an MVP. He's not hurting the Mets. You put him in the Northwest. Like, you didn't trade him to the Braves. You didn't trade him to the Dodgers or somebody in the National League. You traded him to the most basically baseball Siberia, where you never see these teams. Yeah, with the balanced schedule, you might see him once, maybe twice. That's it. So unless he was going to be a year-by-year all-star, it's hard to completely kill the trade, you know? Webbs, I want to go that far yet with Kelenic with Laston's Village, but it's possible for sure. David, I haven't touched it. I got moderators that do it. Sorry. All right, guys. So we got through everything today. We talked about a lot about the prospects. It's been the number one topic since basically the end of the offseason into spring training, because all indications are there's one spot available for a position player to make the team. It seems like it could be one of those prospects that we've been talking about for a couple of years now. Who is it going to be? Is it going to be Beatty? Is it going to be Vientos? Is it going to be Mauricio? Looks like it's not going to be Alvarez, most likely, no matter what he does in spring, because he's still got to work on his defensive game. So who is it going to be? We'll have a pretty good idea. Again, if one of these guys, minus Alvarez, has an offensive performance like Pete Alonso did in 2019 and gave the Mets no other choice but to bring him up to the big leagues, who is that going to be? Like Beatty and Mauricio got off to good starts. We'll see if they can continue that once the better pitchers, the actually pitchers that are going to be in the major leagues, are going to start pitching more consistently later in spring. Could they still be consistent with their offensive numbers when the pitcher's starting to get better in spring training? We shall see with that. We don't know yet, right? We're going to see. Again, Scherzer had 2 innings today, 5 strikeouts, couple of hits. Not a bad outing, 1 run, not terrible, but he looks okay. You he talked about, because his first spring training game last year start, he pitched 4 innings. The Mets weren't going to make him do that this time. So they're pulling it back a little bit, which I like. Don't waste his arm for no reason, right? And he talked about, before I go, he actually talked about playing golf to strengthen his oblique. Because he says when there wasn't the DH yet in the National League and he was hitting when he was with the Nationals, he said that it kept him a little bit more fit, a little bit more fit as a player. He says that, while sitting on the bench now that he doesn't hit, he's moving less. Again, that's what he said when Steve Gelbs talked to him today after he came out of the game. He actually said that. So let's hope the oblique is strengthened, is stronger, and he's not going to have any problems with it, because he was one of the better pitchers in baseball prior to the injury. So with that said, guys, I will be coming back to New York tomorrow. Can't wait to get back to New York, do some spring training games live with you guys, spring training watch parties, have a little fun with that, getting in the groove of baseball. Or the new subscribers that haven't seen a stream live during a Mets game, they can get used to that as well and see how we do it here. So with that said, guys, everybody have a great night. Mauricio, Bay are the stars of spring training very, very early on. Let's see if they can continue that and make the choice for the Mets very, very difficult to deny them a spot on the roster for opening day. Everybody have a great night. Let's go Mets. See you next time, guys. Good night.